they've got the information, it shouldn't.
That's what they want.
Because like they just wanted to.
More questions, so.
Because that was been on there for 3 times. It's been on there 3
When you
times.
did the presentation one time, it was on last week's.
Right. And all they wanted, I was more information and clarified that it wasn't going to affect us.
Yeah.
So
I tell somebody, well,
I'm thinking maybe my budget amendment might be a question, but
nothing on there really, a couple of votes.
because it's a pretty big budget.
I didn't even see that.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty large. It's got a lot of things going on.
Oh, well, then that, you just killed us right there. I didn't even see that on there. I haven't even looked at my packet.
You know, Robert would have
Oh,
been
Alicia,
to
what are you
comments. I mean,
It was stuff that should have been
I
done.
wondered about Robert, how much you
We've
got?
received from the money that is done in the miscellaneous, so we have to put it in the right spots. They were waiting for somebody permanent to get in the position and to do all the work. So,
All that answer, but
and so they were like, hey, we want to start this accomplishing stuff. I was like, you can't spend the money until we budget.
Yeah.
So it's got to get through this reading, it's got to get through the second reading in November before they do anything. So they were like, hey, budget amendment, budget amendment. I was like, okay. It's just big, it's got a lot of stuff on it.
For 6 years.
Then all the CARES Act
There's
money.
a dog not even put on like that.
Well, I mean, we can't act outside court, so when we act, I mean, that's the way till we meet.
That's right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Chief, you get to settle?
But I can't believe that y'all have not calmed down on your voting in person yet. I mean, it has been
Moving in that direction.
packed all the time.
I know.
Y'all don't get a break over there.
I'm afraid this week will be brutal too. Saturday, we opened at 8 o'clock Saturday. I bet you when I opened the doors at 8, there was only 75
If you
people.
don't need it,
And I wasn't,
I don't care.
for Saturday, I wasn't planning, you know, I thought, oh my gosh, I thought, 9, 9:30,
Right.
no, 8
Oh
o'clock.
my goodness.
Like Friday and Saturday about did us all in, we were, but that's good.
But I mean, I'm glad that people are voting, but man,
Last time when we
it's
hired,
crazy.
we had 2 applicants.
I mean, did they say
We
they,
hired
I think you're already over like
This time we had
10,000
That's,
people have voted?
that's vote by mail in for, yeah.
Right, but, I mean, but still,
Yours is there.
that's almost like, what, a third of our
It is
population?
30, because, well, there's 30,000 registered voters.
Yeah,
Their population's
So, I mean, that's a
39, so
third
we're a third, so.
of the way
And I
through.
figure next week, so election day may be a breeze, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
But whether, you still got playing for that other 15, you still got
Right.
playing no matter what, you got playing for it, so. But we still got about 1,000 ballots still out that we've not counted yet.
I think as you add
So.
1 or 2 here and there, you'll see
They
the
better,
overtime
they,
go
I mean,
down.
get them in here, so.
And your lead, your.
But that's
true
awesome
labor
though. I
cost
mean, that people
may
are,
not increase.
Yeah, we opened
They're getting
1,200
out.
yesterday, that was a little too much to open one day, especially in hot here.
How are you? Good, I need to respond back to your email you sent me. Where's that at?
How are you?
Where the cost effective.
It was.
I'm running a few emails behind. If you don't tell me, I won't tell Alicia.
I was gonna say, cause I sent him one today that he's not responded to yet, so. So we're just all passing back and forth.
I've been to make a couple of nasty surprises the last couple of days, taking one at a time.
Oh, goodness.
Our department's a little bit under budget, $1 year.
Well, mine is not that big of a deal, so
100% of it.
it's been on my desk for 2 weeks.
Our annual was
Correct. So, I think you're probably gonna be a pretty good check to be glad to sit down and look at anytime you're ready.
Warm in here, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh.
I guess the air is off.
Well,
I
they
think
turned it
switch it
off,
to
they
heat
turned it
already.
off a little earlier, it was mowed in the judge's chambers downstairs.
Hopefully, the first
But-
of November, we can.
Oh, the judge's chamber.
Let's show you what we've got for the.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard something.
Yeah, they,
Coming out of the jacket.
Think you'd like to have
Yes,
you sure will. I'm surprised you're still in it already.
Get that.
I'm trying to be fiscally responsible.
Right, think
So,
you put you and your company
6 of them,
staff.
yeah.
Greg, the manufacturers, I think the 3 though, or the 6,
I think our
we
judge
got
is like-
3 that came open.
I think
But
our
I
judge is
think
like,
the additional 3, I think we already had that plugged in.
Yes, we
We
did.
did.
Well,
Yeah.
you got Joe.
So that was, it would be
I don't think
6,
Joe's
but
gonna
we're
be there.
actually
Oh,
only
Joe's on.
adding 3 new positions.
Right.
Correct, that's
I don't
correct.
think so.
I'm not adding 6 new
Yeah.
positions. Yeah, just for.
Streaming on the camera, yeah, on the internet, or, you know.
There's
I
some
believe they are.
being
She's
like,
having trouble with
"Hey,
Facebook though.
We finally got 12 applicants, let's go ahead and get the other 3, and I was like, relax, we'll discuss it.
They're trying to do it.
We're not.
If you can text me your email, and I'll email you the spreadsheet, and all you have to do is just plug their name and their hourly
You know,
pay
for us
in
to
there,
have,
Okay.
and
you
then
know,
it'll
local
calculate everything for you.
Oh,
have, you know, 6 or 7 people
Definitely.
using, you know,
Retirement
live
and all
stream at
works.
the same time, you could have about $1,000 a month with service.
Evening, Judge.
Good.
I used to, like 550, it took me almost 2 years to get it. I've bought them people and scratched it.
Having a little technical difficulty, but we think we might fix
They
it.
stole $15,000.
Amy, you're-
at a time.
Doug's not gonna be here tonight.
So Joey's gonna get it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. It is 6:30. I ask you to join me in a historical prayer. These are from the words of President Donald Trump at the National Day of Prayer earlier this year. In every battle against poverty, against disease, against tyranny and evil, we've placed our loyalty in each other and our trust in God. We have prevailed. We will continue to prevail. We will prevail again. We will defeat the enemy. We will not fail. So once more, we call upon our Creator to guide us through these complex steps, protect our people, rebuild our communities, and restore our beloved nation to even greater heights. We will never forget, however, those that have been lost, those incredible souls and the families of those souls that are going through so much. We will never forget you. We will be there for you. May God continue to strengthen our hearts and sustain our souls. May God continue to shed His divine grace upon this land, and may God forever bless the United States of America. Amen. Now, pledge.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you should have in front of you a copy of the agenda. I will ask the clerk to call roll.
Magistrate Thompson,
Here.
Constantopoulos,
Here.
Blanton,
Here.
Davis,
Present.
Elkins,
President.
and, Graham is out.
Meeting's called to order. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was it working?
It was.
It's not. That's what we were having difficulty with back there, but I think it may be a bandwidth issue from what he was saying with the flickering line. Item number 6, consider approval of the minutes from the October 14th, 2020 fiscal court meeting. Do I have a motion? No. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Any discussion?
The, roll call vote down almost halfway on page 1 has, Magistrate Graham voted no. I think he was a yes vote. And then just under that, the next line says motion made by Judge Page, seconded by Magistrate Thompson to assign order 2020-121 to the aforesaid motion. I suppose we have to have a vote logged there as well.
Okay.
So you're saying that Graham,
Graham was a yes vote.
Graham was a yes.
oh, yes, that you're right.
And then underneath, the next stanza, Clark County, motion made by Judge Pay, seconded by Magistrate Thompson to sign the order to the aforesaid motion, and then, we had a vote on that.
Yeah, she left it off. All right, I apologize.
Okay, and I have nothing further. Madam Clerk.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 7, consider approval of the bills list. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 8 is a note in your minutes, pay increases as authorized by the CCFC Administrative Code, Compensation Plan Number 7A and B. Increases will be effective the first payroll in November of 2020. Item 9, consider approval of the first reading of an ordinance approving a budget amendment. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Judge, if you wouldn't mind, would you go through that, amendment or ask the treasurer to either one?
Well, she wrote it. I guess I'll let her go through it. Go ahead.
Like, just like explain what's happening in all of it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, sure. So we received some money for a composting grant, and per DLG, we have to our composting grant, it needs to be in its own fund. So we are creating a separate fund. That is why there's a 06 in the front. So the composting grant, we received the 137 out of 137 to 75. And then part of that grant agreement, we have to do a county match of 25%. So that's like that receipt. We're expecting some contributions for that grant as well, which is a $50,000. And then because it is a new fund, we will start a new bank account, which would mean that there will be interest on that deposit, which is that receipt line item as well. So on to the next fund, we also received some CARES Act money from the COVID-19. We were anticipating 1.2 million of funds. And again, it is, well, per DLG, it's supposed to be in a separate fund, and so we created a 07 fund for that. It will be in a separate bank account, so there is interest on that deposit. And then the last receipt amendment is that we do not have a line item for the sheriff to pay us back for the payroll fringe that we pay on his behalf. So I created a line item for that as well. On the disbursement side, you'll see that the top three for the general fund are just an accumulation of that $121,000 for the sheriff payment for fringe, because those are the three expenses that we pay on the sheriff's behalf. For the state grants, these are line items that were put out in the grant agreement that they were giving us like a certain amount of money for, and our 25% match will cover the coordinator and the laborers, and the rest of it is covered under the composting grant amount that we received. And then we put a contingent appropriations if any of those amounts, like if they need to change. And then for federal grants, we have, when we submitted the reimbursement for the CARES Act money, part of that reimbursement was to go to the sheriff because they submitted some expenses that they incurred for COVID-19. And so that is the portion that would be reimbursable to the sheriff for the expenses of his office. There is some county reimbursement for the sheriff fringe for some payroll expenses that the county pays on the sheriff's behalf, and then a contingent appropriation, like a line item that covers the rest of the CARES Act money that we're anticipating.
Does that cover it, Madam Bill?
That does.
I was like, is that enough explanation?
No, that's a good explanation. That
Okay.
may be my first really big budget amendment. So.
Right, there was a lot on this budget amendment.
I had a question,
Sure.
Judge, and for Alicia. I understand that, on budget amendments, that there is at least either a form or a format that
Mhm.
DLG requires.
Mhm.
Well, I'm assuming that this.
I called DLG.
Applies with this.
I called DLG for a form, and they said, well, you should be able to put it into your accounting software, and it should print you out a form. So I contacted Kathy Dillo, and she walked me through this process, and it is approved by DLG.
They Thank
It's like, this process is, or this form is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judge, one other question for you, the 1.2 million, 1.234 million anticipated, is that the maximum, does that max us out, or
That would max us out unless further funding becomes available.
for federal CARES Act funding? Okay, thank you.
We've already received that, but,
Correct. A little more, yeah.
and that's in the miscellaneous account.
Yes. But when we set up these new funds, it will be able to be moved.
I saw it on the treasury report.
Okay, yes.
Correct. Thank you. Nothing further from me.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just, I assume, I know Greg and I have discussed it, that we're gonna have to do a
Jail.
budget amendment for the jail, but I assume we're gonna do another one.
Yeah, well,
So,
we don't have enough information
Yeah,
yet.
I agree. Just,
There will be, and two of them, I hope that maybe there's another CARES Act funding, and I know the jail has incurred some expenses as well due to COVID.
I just wanna make sure we're all the same page.
Yeah.
We wanna make sure that the jail gets some of that money back too, if we can.
We would like for more funding to become available, and that's why I've advised all of our independent officers who may have expenditures that could be refunded, we may as well keep the paperwork just in case.
I talked with, Mr. Salmons today, and he said they were tracking the jail's numbers, and he's working on that today, as a matter of fact.
I think we're gonna have something ready for us now.
Yep, right, there'll be considerable amount of expenses over there too, should there become more funding available.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 10, consider approval of a resolution to authorize and provide for the amendment of documents regarding the Kentucky Educational Development Revenue Bonds, the Lexington School Project, Series 2018A, issued by the county on September 19, 2018, to finance a portion of the cost to acquire, construct, renovate, and equip various educational facilities for the Lexington School, Inc., a Kentucky nonprofit organization. Gentlemen,
So moved. Second.
any discussion? County Attorney Elkins, you did review and those changes were made that you advised us to have made at the last meeting?
I did.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 11, consider approval of an order to appoint Chief Steve Asbury to the Clark County Fire Committee.
Motion approved.
Motion by Constantopoulos, seconded by one of these two guys.
Motion
Travis.
by-
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries. Item number 12, discussing of the outstanding balance for WEX. I'll hand that over to the treasurer who's been doing some research.
At the last meeting, I was asked to call WEX and see if they would get us how we came to this outstanding balance. And in part, they told me that there was a lot of information that they were not able to give me. So I went through all the invoices that I could find, and I don't know if this helps, if this helps anybody, but I made a little chart to show how long this outstanding balance has been happening, and it's been fluctuating a lot. I'll come over that. The finance officer and I believe that we have it all like handled now. We just have to handle the outstanding balance.
The outstanding balance, I know it was kind of confusing on the last statement that we had on our last meeting, because it was showing about 5,000 and some that was past due, but actually the only outstanding balance is 8,000. They just hadn't credited.
800.
800, what I said, 8,000.
You said 8,000.
Sorry, 800, because they hadn't credited the payment
Right.
from the previous month.
Yes.
And treasurer, when you had a chance to speak with them, were they able to provide us with documentation further back for those that we have not been able to find invoices for?
They were not.
Okay.
And if I may, that was because of the age of some of these, is that correct, or just
Yes, online, they would go back for 24 months, and then they were not able to provide past that.
And we still don't know why that the invoices were different from the checks created
Right.
to pay. We'll probably never know that, correct?
Right, and because of the fluctuating, like, past due balance, I don't know that it ever made any sense, or that anybody ever, like, went back and tried to find why,
But you're
or what was
convinced,
happening.
but you're convinced that we owe the money to Wax.
I am.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Right.
Nothing further, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Greg, if you look on the spreadsheet, because I spoke to Ms. May too quite a bit about this. I mean, if you go back to January 2018, you can see where we underpaid by $106.55. Well, what happened is the next time we made a payment, they would apply that $106.55 of that payment to that past due balance. So that's why it was never aging out over, the 90 or 120, so you could pinpoint back to the bill. It just kept going and going and going. And some months we got shorter, as you can see how the balance kind of changed, through the months going all the way. So, in my opinion, I think we could go back and really dig and find out, but I think we're gonna find out that we owe it. And by the time you put the man hours and everything in trying to do that, you're going to end up spending more money than what we actually owe on it. So I'd make a motion that we go ahead and pay that past due balance.
Of what amount?
896.
896.
32.
32.
A motion has been made to pay a past due balance of
I'll
$896.32.
second that, and just, are we gonna do it like she suggested last meeting, where we divide it up between the departments, or how you do it?
I think that may cause us an issue.
I think that's complicated personally.
I think it's complicated. I think we pick an account, especially like road funds. I don't wanna say, somebody come back and we say we spent road funds on a general fund. I think it ought to just come straight out of general fund.
I'll second.
If you're gonna do it, I think you should do it from general fund.
I'll second that, I just want to clarify that.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded to pay the balance of $896.32 from the general fund. Is there any discussion?
I'll say this, just in discussion, based on the treasurer's belief, and mine as well, that we do owe the money. And also, I don't think that it's, I really don't think it's possible to determine why we owe it or where it came from. I'll support the motion.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of them telling us that they're not gonna give us all the information we want. That's my opinion on it. I'm confident if it were, granted it's $800-something, but if it were in court, they have to provide that information or they wouldn't get paid.
I think we can make them do that, but I think agree with them that we might be giving them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But I will say this on the record is the fact that they were not willing to provide that, I think we ought to look at another provider. I would agree with that.
Let me offer this, because I've been in situations similar to this where the client or customer waits for years before they ask questions, and sometimes I have to go to a storage building to find the documents, and so I think probably most of the fault lies with us for waiting years to ask the question. If you ask me.
We certainly should have paid the balance.
Yep.
And we do, like the finance officer and I, we have put into place ISO procedures in order to make sure that this does not happen in the future. So on the
That's- I was
future
gonna
bills, like there
ask that.
should not be any
You're
past due
confident
balances.
we can avoid this going
Yes, I'm
forward?
the finance officer and I have seen where we think that a problem, where it could arise, and so we are putting into place like some procedures in order to fix that.
Do you think that we will be gigged in an audit for paying this, or I guess we'll be gigged in an audit for not paying it, so either way we go probably.
Yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah.
In all honesty.
We'll just pay it.
Depends on if they pick that bill, which they always do.
Correct, yeah. Kinda seems
Being an
normal.
auditor myself, I understand. It's always the problem when they pick.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote nay. The ayes have it. All right, item number 13, cancellation of the November 11th, 2020 regularly scheduled meeting of the Clark County Fiscal Court. If no one has any huge objection, that is Veterans Day. November the 12th at 10 a.m. Seems to be a decent day. Is that okay with everyone?
10 a.m.?
Yeah.
On what day?
Very next day, November the 12th.
Thanksgiving. What are we gonna do about that?
Oh, we're gonna cancel Thanksgiving. We, yeah, the next meeting after that, as Robert mentioned, is on Thanksgiving. And,
We're not canceling Thanksgiving, like we're canceling the Thanksgiving meeting.
Yeah, we're not canceling Thanksgiving.
I was gonna say, hold up.
Yeah.
I thought you'd been to the judge's
I was talking about Christmas.
That's on Thursday too.
Yeah.
Not Christmas Eve.
My request, Judge, that if we do move it to the 12th, I mean, would there be any objection to just doing it at the regular time at 9:30 or?
If you wanna do it 9:30 or 6:30, we can.
9:30.
Okay.
9:30 a.m. On the 11th? On the
12th.
12th? Thursday, you're talking about Thursday the 12th, right, Judge?
And to Robert's point, I guess technically it's off the agenda, but it relates to scheduling, so maybe it's not. We will look at Thanksgiving. We have similar plans for that meeting, and, we're hopeful, Alicia thinks it might be possible that she can get our bills prepared in a manner to where we may not have to reschedule that meeting. We can cover it all at the first meeting in December. We'll see how that goes.
We have to have another special meeting.
Yeah, well,
I'm not
we have to
opposed to
call
it.
one, we'll call one. But obviously, tonight, we didn't have very much on the agenda. If it's meeting like this, maybe we'll do something different. So, item number 14, magistrate comments. Magistrate Thompson?
I don't have any judges, do I?
Magistrate Constopoulos?
Got a couple things. First, I want to recognize Daniel Vetter. He's a sophomore over at VCTC. He kind of shadowed, wanted to see how we put a fiscal court meeting together, how we prepared for it. We met a little early, showed him how we prepared for it. He's got an interest in county government and government in general, so I just want to welcome and thank him for coming to tonight's meeting.
He has certainly grown. Wow. Anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple things. In regards to the budget amendment accounts that need, I spoke to Ms. Mayotte today, and we were talking about some new accounts that need to be set up on not just the grant accounts. And I wanted to ask, do you think you would be needing access to those accounts before our next meeting? Or,
Not before the next meeting, because I can't make transfers until after the second reading anyway.
but do you need time to set those up before the next meeting that's what I was trying to get at?
Yes.
So it'd be good if we went ahead and got those
Sure.
accounts open tonight, okay. So with that, I would like to make a motion to authorize the judge executive and the county treasurer to create 4 additional bank accounts for at the traditional bank. One being a new payroll account, a new fringe account, a new state grants account, and a new federal grants account.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks for bringing that up, Daniel.
Was that Davis on the second one?
Yes, I think I did second.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Oh, goodness.
got some stuff to pass out here. This is very quick. This is, as I mentioned in the committee meeting for the,
They're
one each,
staple.
they're stapled,
Yeah,
so
they're
if you can
stapled.
pass those down to the,
Yeah.
Okay. I can get them separated.
but what I discussed in the committee meeting for the Community Fund Foundation was a potential of a electronic speed radar speed limit signs, because I've had a lot of complaints in my subdivision. I don't know if any other magistrates have in subdivisions in my district about trying to slow vehicles down and getting a gauge of what they are.
Chief Palmer, I'd called him up and asked him if we could borrow one of his. You put a discrete one in the road and it was able to give us data that we could use, and I started talking with the road supervisor, about that, and he had mentioned that he could use data like that for when he's doing applications for, getting roads paved. It asks for, you know, the amount of traffic and so forth, and he takes a shot at it. This would give more detail, and so we could get a detailed estimate of the vehicles that are traveling. Another thing that I thought about was with planning and zoning, when we get these new developments or any type of new subdivision that's wanting to come in, they're always, the complaint is, well, how's the traffic, how much is it gonna, you know, impact it and so forth. We're able to put that machine out there and it gives us detailed reports, gives you peak hours, it breaks all that information down. I also spoke with, Sheriff, Purdue, and he said he's wanted one of these for a long time because he thought it would be a good asset. So that way when we get subdivisions that call, we can move it around. He can get data reports that'll say when peak hours are and if there's truly a speed problem in the area. And then that report can be given to him, his department, and they can go out and patrol it during those peak hours. So he was a supporter of that as well. With that, we kind of looked at, we got several different options. After we looked at all the different options, you can see the price difference between there. And the one that we kind of all agreed upon was the RU2 Fast 650. That basically gets everything from 55 miles down, which is pretty much the most that we would need. I mean, it'll register higher, but as far as the speed signs on it, it's the most durable. The tongue lock removed, so it can't be stolen with locks and that type of thing. It's all solar powered and so forth. So the total price of that would be $7,514. And just one other thing is just some research that I did some research online in regards to these signs, is that it does show that when drivers are driving in a subdivision or a street and they see these, when they see that flash of their speed up, it does cause them to slow down. So it has about a 75% effective rate for it being used. So I think it ought to be a good tool in our quiver. And so with that, my recommendation is, and see if anybody's got any qualms to it, is that I would like to use $5,000 from the community fund, and then the balance of $2,514 be used from the equipment line item of the road department, which would be 026105739 account.
Can we just take it off from equipment? There's a good balance in there. I mean, what's the balance in that equipment line item?
Well, the reason I say take it from that equipment line item and part from the community fund is because it's not gonna be all used by the road department, it's gonna be used by other departments. So I don't think it's right to take it all directly from them, and then we're gonna be using it for the, you know, speed and so forth, and it's gonna be a community benefit. So, I mean, I would, and we had discussed it, put it as a possibility on the community fund.
How
So,
about 50/50? I mean, we're already taking the natatorium and transit authority out of the community fund, and it's pretty clear it's just charitable and educational, so I really don't like taking it all, but I might go for 50/50.
Are you changing your motion?
no, I'll see what everybody else thinks.
I think you
No, you're not making a motion.
I hadn't made a motion yet.
All
I'll
right.
see what everybody thought.
Well, just, have you checked on the warranty of these things and service and all that?
Yeah, if you look on the additional notes there, that was the one with a 5-year warranty on the total unit, and then a 2-year warranty on the battery.
Anybody local, I guess, services them? I mean, there's not a lot of service replacing bulbs, I'm sure, and that kind of thing, probably the road department do most of it, but pretty good.
Very easy to work on, except for if something wrong with the radar. There's people in the state that can do it, not local, but in the state.
You scratch through the GPS tracking. 600, but it's
the ones that you have, or that one is that system there, and so what's scratched through is not included on that price list.
That's what I was thinking, yeah, so but I see you do have a cable lock and all that, keep some extra too. I like it.
Any specific place you wanna place it, or just randomly move?
Well, I mean, I've had several complaints from constituents and, you know, Stony Brook, and I know in Calmes and, Hibiscus and those subdivisions, I mean, I think you just,
It would stay out 24/7.
Yeah.
Move it once a week.
Would we ever use it in the city, or would,
well, the city has theirs, so
That's
this
why
would
I'm
be in the
asking.
county, yeah, so the
Okay.
chief was kind enough to.
County roads only.
County, it'd be county roads only, yeah. Unless, well, he won't do anything, yes, it'd be county roads only, yeah.
You know, if you're worried about speeders, I'd almost rather pay a deputy sheriff to sit out there and write citations. You won't get the data, but that's just personal opinion. If they're speeding, they ought to be cited, I would spend the money.
It's good to have the data though to give to the SO. Then the SO has the data or whatever the agency is that may be putting an officer out there. Then they know where they go and where they can overlook for a while or move on to another area, so.
Well, and that's what Sheriff Perdue said, we talked about that, and he said, you know, I get the same complaints, cause he's been carbon copied on some of the emails that I've gotten. And he said, you know, he asked the questions, you know, when are the peak times that it's happening and so forth, and it's hard to get that information. And he said, you can't have a deputy, you can't afford a deputy to sit out on one road, you know, 24 hours a day trying to catch speeders. He said, this way you get the data and you can see, it'll show you, you know, your biggest offenders is between 3 and 4 p.m. or 5 and 6 p.m.
and then I guess hypothetically, when you move the machine to another neighborhood, you know where to sit the sheriff deputy once the machine's gone. That makes sense.
I like it because you're not, which it's always great to have people calling in, but everybody lives on it, every street's gonna think they've got the worst probably speeding or traffic issues. That way you can not just have to go by the phone calls, you can go to where the data leads you.
And one of the complaints that we had was on, Linway. And the police put one out, or the sheriff, or not the sheriff, the chief put it out there, I'm pretty sure it was on Linway. And the data that we got back showed out of the it was a 24-hour period, and there was 48 cars that traveled that road. And out of that 48, there was only 2 that would receive a ticket, 24-hour period. So you can send that data back to the constituent and say, look, here's the data, there's really not a speeding issue out here.
Well, I guess that also would keep the sheriff from posting someone on Lindley because of multiple complaints. And he sits there for 48 hours and writes 2 tickets when he could have been somewhere. And you did, to Magistrate Blanton's point, I agree with what he's saying, but I think you did say the sheriff agreed he could use it as a tool as well, so.
Yes.
Okay.
He said he's actually always wanted one, but never, you know, he had more important things that he had to purchase in his budget.
Makes
So
sense.
he agreed that he could use it, so I mean, I think you got, you know, between the planning and zoning, when they need reports on, you know, traffic counts for a new subdivision or a new development, you know, the road department, when they're filling out their reports to get those traffic studies, when us magistrates get complaints and subdivisions and so forth, and then, you know, the sheriff, when he gets those complaints that we get, he can use it, or if he's got a target area he wants to target, then, you know, we call him, get it moved out there.
I'll second the motion if nobody else did.
Well, I'm not sure
I
that we
think
can.
you made
one.
I thought he made,
Well, I was talking about the money, that was I just wanted to get everybody's input.
I'm
on
sorry,
that.
I thought you.
I mean, I'm fine with the 5,000 from the community fund and then 2,500 from the equipment line item, because that's what I spoke to the road supervisor about taking out of his equipment fund.
So is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
There's
second.
that.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion of the motion on the floor?
I've already said I'd rather 50-50, I'd rather not at all in the community fund because it's educational and charitable. I'm willing 50-50, but not split it probably.
Any further discussion?
I'm all for the piece of equipment. I will say that I received a phone call, got chewed a little bit for the community fund money we used at the last meeting, which I was in support of, I still am. But it was someone who was with an entity that had applied for money from the community fund and was upset that somebody got money that didn't apply
Exactly.
I will say that it was hard to make that argument, so, I think we should minimize what we take from the community fund personally. So I'm completely in support of what you're saying there, and I agree with everything that it does.
What about just throwing this out there, suggestion, what about we do, basically what you're proposing without take the split. You know,
75-25.
75-25,
I would go along with 50/50 as well.
and what about 70-30?
Are we negotiating?
I mean, here's the thing, I'll go along with 50/50, but I don't know what additional is there. If he's got additional, I don't want it to come back and say, well, there's no line in equipment on it, because we spent an extra $2,500 out of there. So I mean, if we have an agreement to put that money back in there if it's needed, then I have no problem with that. But I don't want it to be thrown up at a later meeting if there was something that he had to buy without him being here to discuss it. I'd be fine.
Let's just put the vote off for next week, for that meeting.
Well, let me say this, if it, just personally, just speaking for me, if it came up that he was for some reason short that additional $2,500, I would be supportive of this court making that right. If there was an expense had to be paid, we get near the end of fiscal year and it's $2,500 short, I mean, I think that's something we can manage around.
We just vote on the motion on the floor. Maybe move question, call a question.
All right, question has been called. First vote will be to see if we want to officially call question and in discussion. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We will now vote on the motion on the floor. Please restate the motion.
The motion would be to purchase the RU2 Fast 650 and use $5,000 from the community fund and $2,514 from the equipment line item 026105-7390.
Okay. I guess we'll do a roll call vote.
Manager Thompson,
No.
Manager Constantopoulos,
Yes.
Manager Blanton,
Nay.
Manager Davis,
Yes.
Manager Elkins,
Yes.
and Judge.
Yes.
4-2.
And that's all I got, Judge.
All right. Robert?
I've got some things, Judge, but it's hot, so we'll go home.
Okay.
Keep that back pocket full.
All I would ask you, just a matter of housekeeping, do we need to, I don't think we did took a vote on moving the November 11th meeting to the 12th. Do we need to vote on that tonight?
I believe that can be set by the chair, a special meeting. We've done it before. Am I correct on that?
You can do what?
Set a special meeting
Sure.
without a vote of the group.
I have no problem with that, Judge. I just
All right.
wanted to clear it up, in case we need to address it, so.
Max Delphine?
And I guess too, we don't need a vote to cancel the regular call meeting.
Do we need a vote to cancel the regular meeting?
I don't think you do, but you can do it real quick and get that out of the way.
Well, if he says we don't have to, I'd just assume not do, but if you wanna make a motion, go for it.
I'm fine, I'll leave that call to you, Judge. I would like to say, I can't believe Manager Thompson, missed this one, but I'd like to note in the minutes that we did receive our jail report, in the next minutes, that we did receive our jail report.
Oh, you didn't get it?
It's emailed, I think they emailed it today, maybe?
I haven't got,
Or-
You know what?
I would've been on top of that group.
You would've.
You know what, it just got, because it wasn't, I don't think that's his quarterly report that's due. That's that report from our original thing where I think most of the information just gets sent to me and you.
Could be.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
It's not
I
for
didn't
us.
see it.
So do you want that in the minutes?
No, no.
Okay. I was like, 'cause I don't have anything on it, so,
I'll wait,
okay.
let Manager Thompson.
I thought he had you on that one. I thought he did too.
Okay, I do have a few things, but I'm gonna try to hustle through it. If anybody doesn't have a dinner planned, you can go to St. Agatha's. They're having their spaghetti supper tonight. Halloween, there'll be an event in Trapp. There's also gonna be an event at the local parks. If you want to participate in those, that's on a Saturday. We're gonna have a table there. If you'd like to stop by or participate, you can. In regard to the curb building, those people contacted me. That is an issue that we've got tabled. They sent me some documentation showing who their relevant officers are. Unfortunately, I don't see the relevant officers on the indemnity agreement, so I'm gonna have to talk with them and sort it out. I also spoke with Alan. He estimated that if there were a WMU truck turning around with a dumpster there, it would probably, for lack of a better word, destroy that area within 2 years, and a replacement cost would probably be around $8,000. We had a group come in and speak with myself and Janet called the Perfection Group. They basically looked at old buildings. They looked at the jail, they looked at the annex and this building, things like LED lights, HVAC repairs, so forth and so on. They think that they could save us money. Their pitch is basically, if we come in and upgrade everything you've got, it saves you money just in electricity and so forth, energy costs, versus whatever it costs you to finance it over a term of years. I told them that I would ask this group if you wanted to split up in groups of 3 so that we don't have quorum, and speak with them and review their energy audit separately.
We've had that done at least twice before.
That's something that you all would like to do.
We've had folks talk about LED, we've had folks talk about mini splits in getting the window air conditioners. Nobody seemed interested in it when I brought it up, so maybe you'll have better luck, Judge.
And then I'll do it as a week.
Yeah, just have him come
Well,
down.
they said it would take a long time.
Oh.
Well, they were probably with us for an hour and a half.
And I've met with them multiple times, and this is a comprehensive plan, it's not just one.
Well, we've had that done before, too. I can't remember who done it, but.
And it wouldn't be, just to clarify, it wouldn't be to make an agreement with them. It would just be to inform the group and see if we would like to put something out to bid for competitive bidding at some point.
We've had that entry set done at least twice. I can't recall who did it.
I think the last thing that was discussed was the LED lights.
Well, that was just separately, but that was done just last year. $27,000 to pay off in 4 years. And AOC said they would reimburse part of it. But
Y'all have an hour out of your day to sit with these people? Anybody give me an indication?
have them give us something in writing to start with, see if it's.
Well, we've got a thick booklet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
haven't
very
provided it to us
detailed.
yet.
It's worth spending some time with them, just after the first of the year, to see what you think.
Okay, we'll get you a copy of that book. Anybody else who wants a copy of that book, ask and we'll get it for you, okay? Fair enough. Moving on from that. Chief Asbury wanted to speak.
It's okay, thank you. I'll be brief, I know it's hot. I just want to thank the magistrates that have reached out to me and helped my transition into the chief's role. They've helped out a tremendous amount. Also, I'd like to thank Deputy Judge Townsend for her instructional training. She came to the fire department and gave us some really fantastic training on how to conduct a proper interview with new candidates that we're going to be seeking. I plan on giving a quarterly state of the fire department brief to the court. I won't go into it right now because it's rather lengthy and the judge knows that I'm kind of hard to get out of his office once I get going. One thing I would like to touch on, the road department and the fire department are currently working on a grant in conjunction with one another to build a new facility out to Trap. And we're not gonna make the deadline. I'll let Alan speak to it because I don't want to steal any of his thunder. We're not gonna make the deadline for the grant. It's October. There's no way we can put it together in about a week's time. And we want it to be solid, so we're gonna do that on the next cycle, which would be in next October. And then current issues, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll brief you on what we're currently doing at the fire department. And next time I'll have that report when we have a little bit more time. It's a little bit cooler. Thank you.
There is a KCO conference next week. They are asking us to have a voting representative for, I think it's second vice president, something along those lines. There's gonna be an election of that position. From what I've just read on emails, I think it's 2 magistrates vying for that. If there is a magistrate who would like to be our voting representative, I'm more than happy to nominate you. If no one wants to do it, I guess the duty falls to me. But, you know, I think magistrates are running, so if one of you guys wants it, you can certainly have it.
Who's gonna be online with that conference?
I will be online, anybody else?
I will.
I'm gonna try to do at least some of it,
Yeah.
sign it up.
Is it voting representative in person?
be on Zoom, is my understanding.
Won't you just be the proxy and then each magistrate can call you and tell you who they want? and
That's
do
what
everything
you
at
guys want,
once?
that's what I can do. Okay, last, I was finally able to get some information from a venue, insights and analytics. Communication, taxpayers notified, 907, taxpayers for the second notice, 332, phone calls made, 34, accounts discovered, 907, of those, they say 439 are closed. And this is a number that's really telling to me. Out of these 907 accounts that have been paid, they've managed to get 17 paid out of 907. Accounts in process, 21, and then no response from roughly 400. And they say that we've been paid 61,204.91. This doesn't have any dates on it. I don't know if that's from the beginning of the project 2 years ago or whenever it was or not. I told them I wanted a more detailed report. They said they'd work on it. We would like to know who these particular entities are. We want to be able to note who has closed their business, so we won't be harassing them anymore, and we want to know who was paid so that we can mark them as paid. I think we need to do that. And that concludes everything I have for comments. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Have a good night.
7:16.
Daniel, you already know I need you.
For what? All that?
All your motion,
Yeah,
your
but
motion.
you've got those papers in front of you and I don't have anything, so.
She's like,
Step on
you
the-
got information
That's
you
right,
didn't
step
provide
on
to
the
everybody.
girl. I know what's hard.